I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. Senator Ben Cardin voiced his support for the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act on the Senate floor Thursday. The bill includes enhanced background checks for gun buyers under 21, a new federal grant program to encourage states to enact red flag laws, and the creation of a federal statute banning gun trafficking. The Maryland Democrats said that the legislation breaks, quote, the decades-long gridlock on gun safety. Take a listen for more from the Democratic lawmaker.
I want to thank both of them for their extraordinary leadership on this mental health issue. I am so pleased that the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act includes a robust provisions to deal with community mental health. I've worked with Senator Stabenow on the Senate Finance Committee. I know exactly her passion for this issue. We have put together bipartisan working groups that are dealing with a lot of the different issues in regards to mental health. A lot of that has to do with pediatric mental health, which is very much engaged in the bill that we have before us today. And a lot of those provisions have been incorporated into the legislation before us. But what you've done on these certified behavioral health centers, to be able to have the pilot programs and now to be able to expand them to more communities, to have a 24/7 facility that's available, that's included in this legislation, that's going to make a real difference in people's lives. So I just really want to thank both of you for your tremendous contributions on this issue. And Senator Stabenow, I want you to know, I agree, through the chair, I agree with you in regards to Senator Blunt. We're going to miss his personal presence here in the United States Senate floor, but we know that we'll be able to continue on having his friendship and counsel on so many issues that have affected us. And Mr. President, just if my friend from Kentucky would allow me just a few more minutes, I'd like to make a couple comments about the underlining bill. I know that he's scheduled to speak. If you like, I would. After the horrific shootings in Uvalde, where innocent children were murdered, inaction was not an option. Congress had to do something substantive to help stem the epidemic of gun violence that is scarring our communities daily. For this reason, for all the victims of gun violence who may not make the headlines every day, I was proud to vote today in favor of the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. The Senate is taking an important step forward today to break the decades-long gridlock on gun safety. The legislation will save lives by boosting funding for community violence intervention and prevention initiatives like those underway in Baltimore. It strengthens protections for victims of domestic violence by adding convicted domestic violence abusers to background checks. It creates a new source of funding for states to implement red flag laws, which help to keep weapons out of the hands of dangerous individuals who should not have access to a firearm. It cracks down on criminals who try to evade licensing requirements and makes clear which gun sellers need to register, conduct background checks, and keep appropriate records. It strengthens the background check process for those under 21 seeking to buy firearms by ensuring that officials have access to juvenile and mental health records. The bipartisan legislation also provides much-needed mental health resources to communities by providing funding to improve and expand access to mental health services. It includes policies from the Mental Health for Kids and Underserved Act and the Senate Finance Committee Bipartisan Mental Health Working Group Telehealth Discussion Draft led by Senator Thune and me to improve telehealth services for students with Medicaid and CHIP. Increasing resources for mental health services are critical, but it's important that we not conflate mental illness and gun violence, and I heard Senator Blunt talk about that. Not every instance of gun violence is connected to mental illness, and not every mental health crisis prompts the use of a weapon. To that end, the COVID-19 pandemic has made it abundantly clear that our children need additional mental health resources offered in schools. We must also significantly increase the pipeline of individuals willing to serve in those school-based mental health service positions. This legislation addresses that challenge head-on and provides supplemental funding to both train new school-based mental health service providers and provide students with the specific mental health services they require. While not able to meet the needs of every school currently without counselors or mental health professionals, this bill will make significant strides to ensure that a significantly greater percentage of students have access to mental health services. The legislation we passed in the Senate today will save lives and help keep our community safer, but there are many more reasonable steps we can and should take consistent with the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens. I will continue to strongly support the establishment of universal background checks for all gun purchases, the banning of assault weapons and high-capacity magazine clips from private ownership, and raising the minimum age to 21 to buy assault weapons in the absence of a ban. The Senate should also act quickly to confirm the nomination of Stephen Dettelbach to be the director of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. The ATF has not had a permanent Senate-confirmed director since 2015, and the agency is sorely overdue for permanent leadership who can carry out its critical mission to stem the illegal use and trafficking of firearms, among other important priorities. To that end, Mr. President, let me just point out that I am a co-sponsor of the Background Check Expansion Act, which would require checks for all gun sales, including those by unlicensed sellers, the Assault Weapon Ban Act, which would generally ban the sale, manufacture, transfer, and importation of assault weapons, the Background Check Completion Act, which would eliminate Charlestown loophole that allows for the sales to go forward if a check is not completed within 3 days, the Keep America Safe Act, which prohibits the importation, sale, manufacturing, transfer, or possession of magazines that hold more than 10 rounds of ammunition. The Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which we can and will pass, will save lives. But there's still more work that we should do to keep our students and our communities safe. And with that, Mr. President, I will yield the floor.